Welcome to the Lemons and Pineapples podcast. I'm your host, Emma O'Brien, personal development coach, HeartMath practitioner, dog photographer, and entrepreneur. In this podcast, I share tools, strategies, and amazing guest interviews to help you improve your mindset and your well-being with a sprinkle of fun and probably some mention of dogs along the way. So without further ado, let's squeeze the day. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Lemons and Pineapples podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 lessons I learned from the first time I attempted to surf. I'll start this with a question, and that is, when was the last time you tried something new? And I don't mean at work, when often we have to learn a new skill, just for the sheer fun of it. Speaking from my own experience, getting onto a surfboard is, I'll tell you more about it. I don't think I really got onto the surfboard. But trying to surf is the first time in a long time that I've been brave enough to take up the challenge of, do you know what, I'll try something that I'm pretty sure I'm going to be useless at and I have no idea how to do. If you listen to episode 1, you'll know we had a trip to Mozambique recently, and I happened to be having a stroll down the beach one afternoon and greeted a couple of guys that were coming in the opposite direction. One of them just stopped me and said, "Don't you want to come for a surfing lesson with me?" So I think before I could stop myself, I said, "Yeah, sure. I've never surfed before, but why not? Let me give it a bash." So we arranged, and I made a time to see him the following day. And when I went back to where we were staying and I told the engineer that I'd signed up for a surfing lesson, I think it's safe to say he nearly fell off his chair. I'll just tell you a little bit more about me and adventure sports, and I generally don't like doing anything that involves having my feet strapped into a board, wheels, blades, anything where the floor might move, anything where I might fall over. So I surprised even myself by volunteering to attempt to surf. Off I went the next day for my surfing lesson, and I went to the beach, and there's a bunch of guys with surfboards there, and I made very sure that I clocked the lifeguard and introduced myself to him and said, "I'm not a very good swimmer, so I'm going to need you to please keep an eye on me because I might need your help." So he had a laugh and he said, "No problem, I'm here. I've got my little life buoy. You're all fine." And off we went out into the water and paddled out, not so bad. And then it came to trying to stand up on the surfboard. And I realised that having not done very much exercise for a while, this was going to be hard. If you've ever surfed before, you'll know exactly what happens. If you haven't, you essentially I got pushed out by the instructor towards the beach as a wave came, and then told to try and push myself up and stand up on the board. And needless to say, I half got up and fell off repeatedly. And it was interesting. I have never had a nasal irrigation quite like the ones I had when I fell off the surfboard. And I'm very aware that I looked completely ridiculous flailing around in the waves, trying to pick the surfboard up, trying not to let it hit me in the face. And I could hear my inner chatter as I got to the 3rd time I'd fallen off and I had to try and take the surfboard back and find my instructor who's halfway out in the waves. And my self-talk started with, "You're really not very good at this, are you? This is awful. This is frustrating. You're never going to get this." And I actually had to stop it in its tracks and be nice to myself in that moment and counter it with, "I've never done this before." It was very unlikely I was going to be able to get up onto the surfboard and go like Kelly Slater off the bat. So I'm just going to give myself a break here. And off I went and carried on. And about the 5th time, literally by this point, my shoulders are really sore and I'm feeling like I'd like to stop. But I thought, I'm going to get this until I can stand even for a nanosecond on this surfboard. And as I'm paddling back to my instructor, there's a lady just hanging out on her surfboard. She's just holding on to the surfboard, hanging out in the waves. And my instructor, Ricky, said to her, "Are you okay? Are you tired?" And she was an Australian lady. She said, "No, I'm just taking it all in here." So I said, "Oh, cool." So she said to me, and she's got to have seen me because she was just sitting there chilling. She's got to have seen my lack of surfing ability. So she said to me, "Aren't you loving it?" And
I looked at her and I said, this is my first surfing lesson. I've not managed to stand up on the board yet. I've been more in the water, half drowning than out of it. I'm giving it a go. And she said, I don't know why you're struggling. The waves are great today. And I thought, that's interesting thing to say to somebody who is a beginner. She was almost like she was echoing the thoughts I was having in my own mind. It was like she was the external self-talk. So I ignored her because I just thought, I don't really have anything other than a bit of a sarcastic retort for that. So I'm just going to be quiet and not be rude. And off I carried on. And then I could hear her in the background going, hold your tummy muscles in. That'll really help you. And I carried on. And I think in the course of this short surf lesson, I managed to stand up for about a millisecond before I fell off. And then I said to Ricky, you know what? I think I'm going to call time on this and I'll come back another day. I had also tried to surf with a very thick wetsuit on, which made manoeuvring a little bit difficult, but let's not make excuses. I think it was just, surfing is hard. And it's okay to not be brilliant at something from the get-go. It's okay to have a beginner's mind and explore, and actually to know that over time you'll get better with practice, like everything. What I came back with after this lesson, what I took from it were three things which I want to share with you, because I think it's really important to remember these things. And the first one is that when you're trying something new, you need to be gentle with yourself. I don't think there's anybody who starts a new skill or decides to try something new who is brilliant at it from the get-go. Take podcasting. We're on episode 2. I'm stumbling my way through this at the moment, but I'm just going to keep going. The more I do it, hopefully, the better I'll get at it. Public speaking. Very few people are able to, without any experience or training or coaching, get up and deliver a really great talk. It takes practice. Everything takes practice. It's Malcolm Gladwell who talks about it takes 10,000 hours of practice to get to expert level at something. And we're often really hard on ourselves when after the first hour we haven't got it. It's okay. Just keep going and keep practicing. The second thing really leads on from this is practice and persist. The more you do something, the better you get at it. And for me, the big takeaway with this was, and it was a takeaway as well from going out on the boat and attempting to swim with humpback whales, is I'm very unfit. And I am not helping myself by having no strength. So it has spurred me into starting to get back into doing yoga and getting back into doing a bit of strength training, because I'm quite a small person anyway, but I'm a bit fed up of being weak and insipid. So the next time I go, I'll go to a surfing lesson having done some training, and it'll be far easier for me to push myself up and stand on the board. It also takes quite a lot of core strength to do it. So I'm going to get myself one of those little balance boards so I can practice my core strength and really get that in place so I'm better prepped for it. So there are things you can do to practice behind the scenes and train. And if you can figure those out and start to do them, you'll be better the next time you do the thing that you want to be trying. And the third thing is to surround yourself with people who support you. It was very interesting, my internal kind of reaction to the Australian lady who was saying to me, I don't know why you can't get this. The waves are great. And I couldn't get it because I've never done it before. But it's just so fascinating to me that somebody would say something like that rather than, oh, the first time I surfed it was really hard, but just keep going and you'll get there, which would have been far more helpful. And so I just tuned it out. I'm sure she wasn't trying to be facetious. I don't know. I just literally met her. I don't know. But I think it's really important when you're doing a new thing to have people who cheer you on. And hopefully that is your family and friends. So whether that is learning to surf, whether that's starting a business, whether that is going back to school to do something, whatever it is, I hope you have family and friends who are cheering in your corner for you. And if you don't, find yourself people who will. So this is where having a coach is really great. This is where having a supportive community is really great. There are loads of communities for people doing things. I've said I'm new to podcasting. There's a huge podcasting community that I've stumbled into. And it will be the same with anything new that you try. There'll be a big community of people who will uplift you and support you on your journey, and you can learn from along the way. And I think the biggest thing here that I'm going to reiterate is to be gentle with yourself. We're often so hard on ourselves, and it's something I have worked on because I have a very hard inner critic, and it is a voice that I have to tell it to shh. It's not helpful when you're trying to surf to have your own inner voice going, oh God, you're really shit at this, aren't you? Why don't you just go back to the bar? You'll never do anything if you keep listening to that inner voice. Be kind to yourself and watch how you speak to yourself. Surround yourself with people who support you, and practice and persist. Because with enough trial and error, you will get to where you want to be going. I would love to know if today's episode has inspired you to pick up something new, or if you have something that you've been thinking about trying but you haven't quite been brave enough. Pop me a DM on Instagram and let me know. It's at Emma O'Brien Coach. And I will see you for the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you've enjoyed it, please share with your friends, and be sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review, especially if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. To find out more about my one-on-one coaching, please visit my website, which is emmaobriencoach.com. And remember, folks, when life gives you lemons, you can always choose another fruit. See you next time.